Time for Stream Dreaming. Welcome back to Stream Dreaming, everyone. I'm glad you're here. So this is the biggest project that I've ever done in the Basecamp. Now, I love my Basecamp. One of the things that I don't love, though, is the kitchen, and that's what I'm going to redo. In this video, and the one that comes after, it's a two-part series. How's that for cool, huh? It's a two-part series. We're going to change the kitchen countertop. I'll show you how you can change the sink, the faucet, and the cooktop. And a modification to the silverware drawer, silverware holder, tray, whatever you want to call it, that will really get you excited. It did me. It is a huge change and a huge upgrade. It's not real simple, but it's not that hard either. I mean, I figured it out, so it can't be too hard. Anyway, it's a huge deal. And I'm going to show you how you can more than double your countertop space. It's really cool. Okay, so a little bit of patience though. This video is how to. We do all of the hard stuff. We take out the countertop, which means we have to take out the sink, we have to take out the cooktop, we have to take out that USB power tower thingamabobber. Pull the countertop off. I put a new countertop on. I put the old sink back in. I don't have a problem with the sink. I like the sink a lot. I use the faucet that I installed in a previous video because I really like it. And I put the Dometic cooktop back in. And I modify the silverware tray drawer. Well, let's say we make it from a tray to a drawer. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. You'll love it because I don't think you've seen it anywhere else. I haven't. This was a unique idea for me. So I'm really excited to share that with you. This is a long video though, so get some popcorn, get a root beer, get ready, let's go. Okay, the first step is to remove the cover plate underneath the cooktop. There's just 4 screws. You can remove this from the top as well, but something to note, this protective panel won't come out through the front door of this cabinet. It'll only come out through the top when you remove the cooktop. Okay, to remove the cooktop, in my case, I've already converted to the Dometic. It's just 2 screws on the top. The Suburban is a little different, but they both have the same propane supply line. Disconnect that. And then there's 2 electrical wires that power your igniter on the cooktop. There's a protective panel on both. You'll have to deal with that. I was able to loosen the one on the Dometic here and then pull those wires out. You can disconnect the fuse out of the breaker panel box that sends power to these lines. That will save you getting shocked, or you can tape them off. Now, I find that whenever I work underneath the sink, it's just easier to loosen these 2 screws, pull this glass door out, the bottom hinge stays attached, and then just reinstall it when I'm done. I do both doors. All right, remove the sink. We got to take out the P-trap. Once you get the P-trap disconnected, the sink is no longer connected except for those 4 screws. Remove those. Now those flanges that those screws attach to can get splayed out, making the diameter of the sink greater than the hole cut in the countertop. So you have to finesse that a little bit. You might have to push them in with your thumb. I'm going to show you how to straighten these because this will make a big difference when you go to reinstall it. This one is a little bit crooked, so I'm going to straighten it out first, and then I'm just going to take those needle nose and torque that back toward the wall of the sink. That lessened the diameter. It'll make it a lot easier to get it in, and it'll make those screws function a little easier. All right, take the faucet out, disconnect the supply lines, and then there's 1 nut to secure it in place. Loosen that. It is a fine thread, so it takes a while to get that nut, and the nut has to come all the way off so you can get that little bracket or washer out and remove the faucet. You'll have to pull those lines out one at a time until you get a couple of them out, and then you'll be able to get the center one, the biggest one, out. The same process pulling it through the countertop. Just feed them through, be a little patient, and everything will be good. Now we got to take this USB power tower out, and it's just one big plastic nut. It plugs into the wall. No chance of getting shocked here. Well, very slim chance of getting shocked here. Okay, now there's screws on that wood. There's screws on those brackets. We're going to take those out. About the time I take these out, I realize that's not how I want to do it. I want to disconnect the countertop from the bracket, not the bracket from the wall. And the reason for that is when I go to put the new one in, I have the bracket where it's supposed to be. I can just pre-drill my holes in the countertop, put the screws in, and it's mounted. I don't have to locate all 4 screws again. Much simpler process there. Zip, zip, out they come. And then we'll go over to the cooktop side, take these 2 screws out here, and then that flange on the back or against the sidewall of the trailer, you can't get a screwdriver in there to remove those from the countertop. So I had to take these out, which means I have to locate this bracket on the shelf when I go to or on the countertop when I go to reinstall it. Okay, that's it. Now the countertop is ready to come out. I did have to cut the silicone bead against the aluminum skin, but the countertop just comes right out. Now this is the new countertop laid out. I use this tape for 2 reasons. Primarily to reinforce the top grain on the wood so it doesn't splinter when I cut it with my saw. At least it doesn't splinter as badly. It has a secondary benefit. That wood is really dark and it's hard to see the line that I draw with a pencil. Drawing the line on the tape will allow me to see it much more readily. A couple of things to note about the countertop. The front edge is straight. The left and right sides are straight. The back is not. It's tapered and it's not a straight line. So you can't cut this on a table saw. You're going to have to use a handsaw or a jigsaw or something that you can cut an arc with, because it's not just a straight line at one angle and then the angle changes and you need to steepen it or lessen it. It is curved. And anyway, so I used a jigsaw and it worked beautifully. But you can get an idea just looking at this how it tapers. And I should have shown you a different angle so you could see the curvature to it. Now I'm just checking to make sure that every area I need to cut is covered by tape. I'm not worried about the power tower hole because I'm not going to cut it. I'm not going to reinstall that power tower. All right, I can make my lines. I clamp the countertop in place so I don't get any movement. You can see I'm doing this in my kitchen on my island, which has been a remarkably efficient work table, I have to say. Once you get the lines drawn, then you can unclamp the pattern or the old countertop and start making cuts. We're going to need a couple of tools. I'll use a hole saw. I would prefer to use a Forstner bit. By the time I made this, I didn't have a Forstner bit. A jigsaw. I used a straight edge and my circular saw. I have a compound miter saw, but this countertop, and fine finish blades on both the circular saw and the jigsaw. Now I used a Diablo ultrafine cut blade on my circular saw, and I have to say it's fantastic. It gave me the smoothest cut I've ever gotten on a table saw or a miter saw. It was phenomenally smooth, and those Diablo blades are not expensive. I'm a huge fan. I got them for my jigsaw and for the circular saw. Each one of them has performed flawlessly and exceeded my expectations in every regard. But this Wenge wood that I'm working with, it's a black African wood. It's next to ebony on the hardness scale. It's splintery. I got so many splinters in my hands. It's really an awful wood to work with. So I'm taking a little extra caution here. I don't need this big a hole to get my jigsaw started, but I want to see how the hole saw is going to perform make sure that it's not just going to tear up the Wenge and give me a bunch of a big splintery crater, if you will. It didn't. It worked quite well. I didn't get a lot of splinters. The little imperfections that are there will more than be covered up by the faucet. So I'm good to go to cut my faucet hole with that. But let's continue cutting out the sink. Now I'm staying outside the line here by at least 1/8 of an inch because I have a router and a trim bit for the router that has a bearing that will ride across the pattern and cut a mirror edge on whatever material you want it to cut on. So that'll give me my finish cut on this. But I have to say, this Wenge is a tough wood. I'm putting a lot of pressure on my jigsaw to push it around there, much more than I've had to with any other wood that I've worked with. But I can't say enough about how hard this Wenge was to work with. I don't think I would ever use it again. Having said that, it is such a pretty wood. Oh my goodness, when you see it finished, it is just gorgeous. So maybe it is justifiable. I do love the finished countertop, but I did not enjoy working this wood at all. And when you get the splinters in your hand, they burn. It's like everything about that wood is toxic. All right, ran out of battery here, which wasn't a bad thing because I did have to stop a few times with this hole cutter just to let it cool down. It was smoking, and I didn't want to burn up the hole cutter. There's no sense in that. Better to just take it out, let it cool down for a second, start again. I mean, it took less than 60 seconds to cut that hole. All right, let's see how this tape performed. And it really made a difference. It's nice and smooth. I don't have a lot of splinters. So let's keep going. We'll cut out the cooktop. Now you could speed this up a little bit if you wanted to drill 4 holes in each of the corners. So you just get your jigsaw started, cut from one hole to the other, take it out, turn it, and keep going. I didn't do that. Can't tell you why. Maybe because I thought I wanted perfectly square corners. You don't need them. You could do it either way. But you see what I do is I cut up to the edge, then come back and cut a curved radius so I can transition the blade 90 degrees to make the other cut. And then I'll just come back and square those up. But this Wenge, this was my first time working it, and it really is an obnoxious wood to work with. But man, does it look good when it's done. I mean, I'm really, really pleased with my countertop. Now I'm narrating this video a month after I finished it. So here it is. This gives you an idea what it looks like finished. I put some tung oil on there. The old countertop is underneath so that bearing can ride on it. Now I failed to hit record when I actually cut this, so I'm just simulating it here. But this is really all you do. Just go around and it gives you a nice, fine cut, fine finished edge. So there it is. You see how the bearing rides on the pattern. The cutters mirror the pattern on the wood that you want to cut. Okay, we're not installing this power tower, but it does have some valuable components, primarily the power cord. That's such a great plug because it's a low profile plug. It doesn't come straight out of the wall. It just is made to be almost flush with the wall. So I'm going to use that power cord. I'm just going to cut it off of there. But I want to put the outlet over here. In fact, I want to put the outlet right where that USB power plug is. So I'm going to move the USB power plug over. Just disconnect it and put that in right there, and then move that over to the left. But I'm going to make a pattern here of this hole. I don't think there's anything special about that hole, but I'll make the pattern because it's easy. Now I'll lay this out kind of where I want it, get the height right, and yeah, the last thing I want to do is cut the wrong size hole here. So I did take a little bit of time with this, and it's right at the limits of my jigsaw. I can't move it any closer to the wall, or I won't have room to use my jigsaw and I have to come up with something else. And I don't have something else, so this was as close as I dared move it, and it's a good position. All right, got the lines clear, and you can see how close it is for the jigsaw. I can't go any closer. Now the wood for this is also very hard, and this finish is prone is prone to chipping, and you'll see that I do get a chip here. So this is something that if I ever cut into this again, I will use the tape method to hopefully help alleviate that or minimize it. I was lucky here in that the chip is easily covered by the electrical outlet cover plate. Could have just said cover plate, but you get the idea. All right, these are just relief cuts so I can cut around and turn the blade a little more easily. This would have been a great spot to drill the holes in the corner and just cut up to the corner. I think in my mindset here was I was cutting to drop the box in from the front, which is I think how it's designed to go. But at some point along the way I realized I really want to mount this from the back, or I have to mount it from the back because I don't have enough clearance in that low profile plug box for the outlet to go in there. All right, so mounting it from the back, my hole is just a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but again, it's going to be covered by the cover plate, so no big deal. All right, cut out this and use this as a pattern for my USB. Now, if you wanted to change to USB-C, this would be a great time to do it. I have a couple of bare bones lanterns that I use all the time that have fixed charging cables that are USB cables, USB-A, I guess they are. And so I'm not going to change. All of my cables are charging cables that I use have a traditional or an old school or USB-A, whatever you call them, plug. So this works for my purposes just fine. Now, here you can see I'm drilling the holes in the corner. Not sure why it took me this long to remember that. Maybe it's just old age and senility. I don't know. But I got it here and it worked pretty good. There you go. Look at that. Easy. All right. Now we'll mount this on the back side. Pre-drill a couple of holes. You'll see that my opening on the right-hand side of this hole is a little bit extreme. I did run a little bead of caulking in there to seal that. It's not necessary, but it made me feel better. It made me feel like less of an idiot. Okay. That's one thing that I've come to realize with these do-it-yourself projects. I have never done one perfectly the first time. I don't think I ever have. I've made some mistake along the way, but each one gets a little bit better, and in the end, this little mistake here isn't seen by anybody. I'm the only one who would have known it was here had I not made this video and shared it with you. So if you make some little mistake, forgive yourself and just move on. Laugh a little bit and off you go. All right, cut the cable there. And now we got to strip the insulation to expose these. There's 3 wires in there to expose those. This is a great spot to use a utility or a box knife. I can't find mine, so I'm using a paring knife. And I got to say this Hinkle's paring knife has saved my bacon in more than one instance. It is an incredibly versatile knife. Works great on wire insulation, but I had to do this in stages because it was so sticky that I couldn't slide it off in just one. All right, got those wires exposed, unbraided, and now we'll run those through the box. Now I'm curving that because I am going to add a strap on there so I can mount that cable or secure that cable to the side of the cabinet, so that if something falls in there, or I move something in there and it pushes on the cable, it doesn't put any stress on the connection of these wires to the receptacle itself. All right, get them a little bit stripped. The green and yellow is ground, so we'll hook that up. And by the way, this outlet that I have here has a USB C plug in it. Okay, then it's just mounting it into the box. You have to be a little bit careful here. The wires can't be on the back side of the outlet. Now, if you get just a regular outlet, they're thinner than this. Because this has a USB-C outlet, it is a little bit thicker. That's why I had to mount that box on the back side, and why I struggled with those wires. Had to get them off to the side. There, cover plate covers the chip and the little extra size in the hole that I created. Put the USB outlet on there. And this part of the project is just about done. Still have to mount that strap, which we'll do later. I have to run to the hardware store and get that. I don't have it right now. Okay, now this silverware tray. It's fine, but there's so much room for improvement. If I can elevate this, now you can't go all the way to the top because you have the cooktop in there. You can only go as high as those wood brackets plus the thickness of the aluminum skin. But yeah, look at that. If that could slide out right there, wouldn't that be great? It has to clear the magnetic latch. So I made this spacer. This is just some scrap oak lumber that I had left over from making my, well, the cutting board and dining table. And yeah, I got some surprises coming for you. But we're going to mount this. Drill 2 holes here on the back and then put the screws in. Okay, next project. So you see I put that shelf bracket on there. This is part of the super secret reveal coming up. But I need to put another one right in the center. So it needs to go right between these two doors. And there isn't anything there because of the spice rack. So I created this spacer, or this block of wood. It's actually 2 pieces of wood glued together. I'll screw it in from the back side and from beneath, and that'll give me something that I can mount that second shelving bracket to. But we have to deal with these little bungee cords here. So we'll mark these, and then we'll mark at the top where they go, and then I'll drill some holes through there. So I used a 3/8 inch drill bit to drill these holes, and I'm going to get a block of wood and put under there because I don't want to punch through into the cabinet. There we go. Boom. Drill those. Get them both sides drilled. Drill a second one, and well, first we're going to test fit it, make sure that this hole is the right size, and it is. It's a tight fit, but it worked perfectly. So just the 3/8 inch hole. I drill the second one and then put it in. All right, let's switch back to the drawer now, or the silverware tray, becoming a silverware drawer. This is really exciting. I love this part of the project because it's creative, it's unique. I haven't seen anybody else do it. And it was quite a bit of problem solving to get this done. And the order of operations is really important. Now we're going to pre-drill some holes, put the screws in, and test fit this this spacer. All right, here we go. One more screw, All right, that's what it looks like, and that is to accommodate this drawer slide. It is important that these drawer slides be parallel with one another, and that's parallel up and down and left and right. I guess maybe you could say the X and Y axes, maybe. Somebody will let me know, I'm sure. All right, now on the other side, we're just going to use this 1/4-inch piece of plywood. Now we'll have to modify this plywood to do this, but you get the idea here. So I'll cut it in an odd shape ultimately so that we can slide this in, because the whole assembly has to go in together. Now I glued a 1/4-inch strip of plywood on either side of this silverware tray, and I did that so that I had enough meat for the screws that will attach this drawer slide. That is really thin. That 1/4-inch, I don't think you could really get a screw to bite into it well enough to hold up over time. So 1/2 inch is about the minimum, and this seems to work pretty good. But again, you want these slides absolutely parallel with each other. To do that, I'm just working on the dinette table because it's flat and it's there. There's enough room. This isn't an especially dusty or dirty job. It's much more precision. You can see just a little bit of sawdust there. We get the other one, mount it the same way. Close them up. You can see these are soft close, automatic close slides, which work out great for this application because there's quite a bit of resistance to pull them out. So your drawer isn't going to come sliding out when you go around a corner when you're not there. It's locked almost in place. So I'm really happy with these slides and the way this whole thing's coming together. Get this slide mounted to that spacer. Not much to it. Drilling holes and putting in the screws. Okay, now since we're just test fitting it, I can drop it in through the top. It won't fit through the front yet. That plywood side has to be, we have to change its shape to get it in and out. But we're just testing it right now. And it's easier to test it with that shield out. You can see everything that's going on. We already know that it's at the right height to clear the shield. So until we're ready to put it back in, I'll leave that shield out. Okay, let's see if it works. And it does. A little bit of trepidation there on my part. You can see, yep, look at that. It gets sucked right back in there. Oh man, that is nice. All right, we're going to put this shield in. Now, until just a minute ago, I had that propane line covered up. And I think that is a prudent move because you just don't want any debris getting in there because it'll clog the orifices in your cooktop and won't give you as much power, cooking power as you had. Might even block it so that it doesn't, no gas will flow through it. Okay, this is a shape I had to create so we can get this drawer in and out. Let's see if it works. We'll just slide this in. And we'll see if we can get this in. You don't want to torque on this. You don't want to have to twist this because you don't want to pull those screws out of the silverware tray, and you don't want to twist your slides and mess them up so that they don't function smoothly. There. That wasn't much pressure at all. Okay, so with the right shape, and I double thicknessed it on the top there, again for so I had something meat for the screws to get to bite into, and then I coated it with tung oil. I also ebonized that center piece there so that it matches the countertop, and it looked a whole lot better. Now these blocks, these are just 1/2 inch by, I think maybe 1/2 inch by 3 inches, 2.5 inches, something like that. This is a little brad nailer pin nailer that I'm using to put those blocks in place. Now, it's not enough to secure them permanently. I'm just trying to lock them down so that I can screw them into position more permanently. It's just kind of like a seamstress pinning something in place before she sews it. All right, I put one screw in. Sorry, there was just no good way to film it, no good angle. I will show you the next one. And now I'm putting a screw in through the side so that this plywood is locked in place. All right, takes just a minute here. You definitely want to pre-drill these holes when you're drilling into a small block like that. If you don't pre-drill it, it'll just split. Okay, look at that getting sucked right in there automatically. How nice is that? Wow. And just enough resistance to pull it out to keep it from sliding out when you don't want it to. This is really exciting. I'm thrilled with this part of this project. Now I've got to get one more block in there on that front leg. Boom, just like that. And that was the purpose of working this drawer, making sure that that board is where I want it. You can put a square in there too to make sure that you've got it vertically or oriented vertically the way that it should be. You want it 90 degrees. And I did that. Unfortunately, the footage didn't come out. Okay, pre-drill 2 holes and then put 2 screws in there. Zip, zip. And it's good. Okay. Boom. How's that, huh? Look at that. Wow. I really am excited about this. Okay, let's tidy a few things up. We got to strap these wires. Now, this is something that electricians do when they wire your house. Within 6 inches of the outlet, the wire has to be secured. And that's so that if something tugs on the wire downstream, it doesn't put undue pressure on the connection inside the receptacle. And you do it here too, simply because if something falls down from a shelf in the back and lands on that wire and tugs on it and bounces for 600 miles, it will cause some problems. So putting that strap on there just secures that. Sorry for the wobbles here. Get this cleaned up. A little suction on the propane line just in case anything got in there. All right, with this cleaned up. Now the order of operations at this point really matters. Well, we've got to address this first before we get into that. But putting this back together, it has to go in the right order. And anyway, we'll get this cleaned up. We'll get this center block in there so I have something to mount my folding shelf bracket to. 2 big screws in the back side will be plenty. Now we'll feed those bungee cords through. And they go through fairly well. They just anchor into those pins on either side. Nothing magic there. Okay, so now the order of operations. This has to go in and be mounted first. Okay, and we still have that flange on the back here to deal with. So I mount this, and then I mark the holes on the new countertop, pre-drill those, and then I'll take this off of the side of the trailer and mount it to the countertop so that I can just put these screws in like I'm doing now, because you can't get to it this way. See, you just can't. And even trying to hold a screwdriver back there, it's just a bad spacing. Okay, back to the countertop. Now I'm drilling these flat bottom holes in the underside of the countertop for magnets. Why? Because I'm going to build a cutting board that will cover the cooktop, and I want these magnets to hold it in place. To do that, I need to drill this hole to within a 1/16 of an inch on the other side. Well, between an 1/8 and a 16th. Let's call it a 16th and a half. How's that? Is that 3/32? I think so. All right, it would be really easy if I had a drill press, but I don't. So this is just drill, measure, and don't go through. If I drill all the way through, it's not going to give me the look that I want. But I've got to drill 4 of these and then glue 4 magnets in. And I got these earth magnets from Amazon. Okay, so now this bracket, we cannot forget that bracket. From here on out, the order of operations is really critical. If we don't get that order right, then we have to undo things. And we're about to silicone this countertop in place. And once we put that silicone in, it'll be a mess if we have to take it out. And I don't want to do that. So I'm really focused on getting this order right. Attaching this bracket is one of the key things because, again, it's got to be attached to the countertop and then we can attach it to the side. We can't change that order. Okay, ooh, this is getting exciting though. Look at this. Look how nice that countertop looks. All right, and look how it just got sucked in there by those screws. Oh, I love this. I'm really getting excited here. Okay, look at that. That looks great. All right, now we're going to tape this off and put some silicone between the wood and the aluminum. I want to create a barrier so if we get water or anything else, it can't get in between the wood and the barrier. I don't want mold. I don't want rot. This will go a long way toward keeping both of those from ever coming to fruition. And by taping it, I won't have that nasty silicone caulk everywhere. It'll be limited. Okay, so I squirted that between the wood and the aluminum and then slid it in place. Now I'm just going to put a real fine bead across there. I don't have to be really cautious because I have that tape to limit my bead. Okay, suck that into place. Look at how it pulled that caulking. Over here, I used this zip clamp with these 2 blocks of wood to put pressure on that the countertop to suck it up against the wall. Now I can just put my screws in. And this is kind of a sad thing. This was almost anticlimactic mounting the new countertop. This was the big reason that I undertook this project. But as I started thinking more and more about this project, I expanded it and got things that were way more exciting than just replacing the countertop. I mean, a lot of people have replaced the countertop. That's not such a big deal. But the things that we're going to do here, or that we've done so far even, are unique. That silverware tray drawer, I don't think I've seen anybody else do that. I know I haven't seen anybody else do that. I might not be the first guy, but it was a unique thought for me and it got me all excited. And then there's some ways that we're going to expand the useful workspace of the kitchen countertop. Now, we're putting this shield in there. That is something that has to go into place before we can put the silverware drawer tray in. Now this cabinet is ready. There's nothing else left to do here. We just have to put this in, and it is 4 screws to mount this. 2 into that spacer on the right, and then 1 into each leg of the plywood. And now by cutting that left side, the shape that we did, I can maneuver it around those blocks so that the plywood ends up on the right-hand side of those blocks, just like that. Now, to get these screws in, I have to do this before the sink and the cooktop go in, so I can hold it up in place and reach it. I guess you could reach it through the, oh, look at that. Look at that. This is really cool. I'm super stoked about this. But you could reach through the door to put the screws into that spacer that we made. But you couldn't do it with the sink in place. All right, let's get the cooktop mounted. Our 2 electric wires. Now, there is a positive and a negative here, so make sure you get them correct or your igniter won't work. And notice I put that rubber glove on the inlet for the cooktop, because this project went on for several weeks. I couldn't dedicate just days at a time to do it. I had to do it in bits and pieces. All right, we're going to connect this, and you want this fitting to be tight, not over tightened. You can't just torque it, but you don't want it not tight. Something more than snug. I know those are not very descriptive terms, but maybe you have a feel for what it is to be tight. And you can kind of watch my process here and get an idea for that. Once I get the wrench adjusted properly, there's not a lot of room to work here. Get this, you can see how my hands are fairly close. That small crescent wrench is just a 6-inch wrench. The other one is an 8-inch, so it's a little bit bigger. Now, I'm torquing, but I'm not really over torquing. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on there. You want it tight. Now, the next thing to do after this is a soapy water test, but we're going to come back to that in a minute. I have a surprise for you. Okay, we'll get the water faucet mounted. Feed those lines through there. Make sure your plastic gasket is where it needs to be between the faucet and the top of the countertop, and then feed the lines through the washer here. And you got to pay attention to the order. The biggest one has to go through first or second, and then the other ones you can work through, and they'll all fit. You just have to kind of finesse it and maneuver it around. And then a fine thread nut, it just takes forever to get that tightened. Look at that. Those threads are crazy. Okay. Get that lined up, and then we're going to tighten that. This you do want tight. You don't want to just torque it, but you want it tight because you don't want that faucet flopping around or spinning around. Okay. Put the protective cap on the end and the supply line. Now we're going to connect the hot and the cold. Now the way I'm doing this, those lines aren't going to lay quite like I want them to. So I will end up redoing this. The lines are those braided lines are unbelievably convenient, but they are a little bit temperamental. Now, see how that one wants to flop out? I'm not thrilled with that. So I'm going to take that off and reroute it. Get less pressure, get it so that it's twisting toward the outside of the trailer instead of toward the inside. Fewer things that you have exposed for the things you put underneath the sink to catch on, the better. And you don't use any pipe sealer on the threads or anything like that. Those have a rubber grommet inside that provides a seal. Now, I did tweak all of those flanges on this sink, and it made mounting it so much better. Those screws functioned way better than they have in the previous 2 times I've taken it out. The other thing I found was that big-ass screwdriver worked really well on there. It worked better than a socket or anything else that I've used. All right, I'm going to line this up with the front because the back is tapered. And it never quite looks square. Even when it's perfectly lined up with the front, it still doesn't look quite right because the back has that taper. All right, look at that. It is fantastic. I couldn't be happier with this. I mean, truly, I am just thrilled with this. I mean, the color of the wenge, the way it corresponds or contrasts with the grayish wood of the cabinet, the way it presents the cooktop, everything about it. I am just absolutely thrilled with this. What a great project. And now this. I can't believe I have to tell you this. All right, remember when I told you the order of operation was really, really, really important? And it is. It was, and I forgot. I forgot to put the magnets in the holes that we drilled on the underside. All right, sometimes you just have to laugh. Otherwise, there aren't enough expletives to express your emotion. But laughter seems to take care of it. So I went through the expletives, then I laughed, and now it's time to get to work and solve this problem. All right, so we mixed up some JB epoxy. This has a metallic in it, and it should work just fine. So what I'm going to do is just coat the back side of the magnets. Now, you have to get the side and the orientation right, but I can use a magnet on the top to hold it in place. Thought that was kind of clever. That was kind of the silver lining in this. The other is that 3 of the 4 are fairly easy to access. The back 2 are perfectly easy, no issues whatsoever. The left front I can get to with a little bit of work. The right front, however, I cannot. So my cutting board will be held in place with just 3 magnets. But got the magnets glued in. Now it's time to reinstall the cooktop. So we get to go through this one more time. Now this is the part that intimidates most people. So perhaps the review isn't such a bad thing. And I'm going to show you the soapy water test here as well. Get that lined up. Get it finger tight and then tighten it down with 2 wrenches. Here we go. That feels good. And you want that copper supply line parallel with this fitting that I'm putting that little crescent wrench on. Okay. Here we go. All right, this is the part that intimidates just about anybody who's thinking about changing out their cooktop. I understand that, but it's not that complicated. Keep things lined up, tighten but don't over tighten, and then once you're done, spray it with soapy water. Make sure you have the valve turned on the propane tank. If there's a leak, it will create a bubble in that soapy water, and you'll see it. Then you can try tightening it a little bit more, or you may have to recut your flare. Neither one of which is an especially big deal. But you can see we don't have any bubbles, so we should be good. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up that soapy water. We don't want to just leave that lying around, and getting this thing buttoned back up. So forgetting the magnets, yeah, that was unfortunate. I had to take the cooktop out one additional time and put it in one additional time. But in the end, it wasn't that big a deal. It cost me half an hour, maybe an hour. Then, let's test this. Okay, look at that. It lights. I don't smell any propane. Life is pretty good here. Okay, that is the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you see part 2. You'll get some exciting stuff and see why we did all those crazy little things that we did. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Tell your friends about the channel. I love having you here. And remember, wherever you go, make it an adventure.